So I just watched Shohei Ohtani pitch, and the game he pitched was against the Mariners. It was on Wednesday, April 5th. And Ohtani got the win, and the Angels won by a score of 4-3. But Ohtani really wasn't that effective. And I know we're saying, you're kind of rolling your eyes at me. Brady got the win. He went 6 innings. He pitched, overall, he held the Mariners at bay. He only gave up 1 run. All that is true. And maybe we're just holding Shohei Ohtani to an unfairly high standard. But Ohtani had 4 walks. He hit 2 guys. He almost hit multiple others. And he threw like 110, 111 pitches in those 6 innings. So he had 8 strikeouts. He did what he needed to do to give his team a chance to win and then to ultimately win. But he wasn't very efficient. He threw far more balls than I was expecting him to in this game. And it was a hard dominant. I mean, sometimes you dominant and you roll through a lineup, and sometimes you have to fight through it. And Ohtani really had to fight through it today. But that's not really what I want to debate. What I want to say is that I really sat down and watched the way Ohtani pitched, and it really surprised me. Now, I've watched Shohei Ohtani pitch before. I've watched Shohei Ohtani pitch multiple times, and I always come out in awe of what he does. But today, I really made an effort to sit down and watch and dissect the way he pitched. And I came away very, very surprised. Against the Mariners on this Wednesday, Shohei Ohtani threw more sweepers than fastballs. And it wasn't even close. I'm looking at Baseball Savant right now. 111 pitches for Ohtani, 49 sweepers, 23 fastballs, 13 cutters, 11 sinkers, 8 splitters, 4 curveballs, and 3 sliders. And a couple of things stick out to me a lot in this. One, I always believed and always thought that if you could throw 100 miles an hour, that should be the thing that is your go-to. And now that is not really the case in modern baseball, especially for starting pitchers, and it's certainly not the case for Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani throws 100 miles an hour. His max on this day was 98 miles an hour. He has the ability to dial it up whenever he wants, but yet he does not do it. And that state of pitching really surprised me. That caught my attention. When I think of hard throwers, I am conditioned to think that they are going to live off their fastball. Okay, Randy Johnson lived off his fastball. And maybe I'm stuck in the 90s, but guys when I was growing up who threw hard lived off their fastball, and that's not the case anymore. I see relievers that throw 102 that want to throw nothing but junk. That's really what Ohtani did today. 111 pitches, 49 sweepers. That caught my attention. But what also caught my attention is the lack of splitter usage. Shohei Ohtani threw 8 splitters today out of 111 pitches. That shocks me because it's so atypical for every Japanese pitcher that I have really followed since they came to the States. You name a Japanese pitcher, and they have had a splitter, and the splitter has been among their go-tos. And for Shohei Ohtani today, it was his 5th most frequently used pitch, and that shocks me also. Now, I know that Shohei Ohtani threw a good slider/sweeper. I know he has a splitter, but I thought he lived on that splitter far more than he does. And again, I've watched Ohtani pitch multiple times before, but now with this podcast starting, I'm really watching things more critically, and I couldn't believe the lack of splitter usage. Right? I go back to the 90s and 2000s. Hideo Nomo feasted on his splitter, lived on his splitter. Shigetoshi Hasegawa out of the bullpen, splitter. Kazuhiro Sasaki, splitter. Daisuke Matsuzaka, splitter. We're hearing about Kodai Senga. What are we hearing? Ghost forkball. Essentially a splitter. Japanese pitchers, when they've come over, the splitter has been one of the things that they've done. It's been one of the things they've used. It's been kind of their go-to off-speed pitch, and for Ohtani, that is not the case. 8 splitters out of 111 pitches. I'm shocked on one hand to see that how infrequently Ohtani used his fastball. 21% of the time. 1 out of every 5 pitches, essentially, was Ohtani throwing a fastball. When you throw 100 miles an hour, I can't comprehend you not using that more than 1 out of every 5 pitches. Then I go and I see that he threw 44% sweepers. Almost half of his pitches were sweepers. The idea that you're throwing 80% off speed is foreign to me when you throw that hard. And the idea that I had it in my mind that the splitter was a much bigger percentage of his usage than it is, that caught me by surprise too. I went back to Baseball Savant again, and I looked at Ohtani's player card, and I wanted to see, is this just a 2-start anomaly, or is this who he has been? 2022, Shohei Ohtani threw 38% sweepers, 28% fastballs, 12% splitters. So he is, so far through 2 sports, throwing more sweepers, less fastballs, and less splitters than he did last year. But it's been pretty consistent that the sweeper is his go-to. The fastball is a secondary pitch for him. And the splitter is not non-existent, but he's not reliant on it like other Japanese pitchers have been. I found watching Shohei Ohtani critically to be very, very eye-opening because it broke down some of the perceptions that I have had of Japanese pitchers, but it also broke down the perception I have of hard throwers in terms of, guys who throw hard relying on their fastball. Ohtani doesn't do it. Also, shame on Phil Nevin. Shame on Phil Nevin, the Angels manager. 111 pitches here in his second outing of the year. That's unnecessary. What is this? Is this a thing where Nevin's like, hey, I'm on a 1-year contract and I might not be here next year, so I could care less what I do to this guy? Is this a scenario where he's like, hey, he's a free agent, he's going to leave us anyways, so I'm just going to run him into the ground? I mean, come on. It's the second start of the year, 111 pitches, completely unnecessary. And it wasn't like, if it was 111 pitches and he's dominating and cruising towards a perfect game, then we can have a different conversation. This was 111 pitches that were hard. 111 pitches that were grading on him. There were long innings there where things were difficult. There's 111 that feel like a breeze, and there's 111 that feel tough. And this one felt tough. And Phil Nevin ran him out there anyways for 111 pitches. There was no need for that. Now, I understand the idea of not babying every pitcher on the planet, but this is the second start of the year. This is early April. You're hoping to get 200 innings out of this guy this year, not trying to get 6 in Seattle against a 2-4, now 2-5 team as we tape this. Phil Nevin didn't need to do that. I liked watching Ohtani pitch. It's cool for baseball when he pitches, and I like seeing him walk off the mound successfully rather than being taken out of a game. But there was no need for this. Again, I am for pitchers. Look, today as I tape this, Corey Kluber got taken out of the Red Sox game at 67 pitches. I would have liked to see him go more. I get guys not being coddled, and I get guys being given a chance to go a third time through the order. I do, and I support that. I don't support second start of the year with the most valuable player on the planet in a game that doesn't mean that much right now, in a game in which he's got the lead and is just trying to get through the 6th inning. This isn't him trying to get through the 9th. This isn't a complete game. This isn't a perfect game. This isn't something historic. This was 6 innings. That was a grind, and he didn't need to do it. And his manager didn't need him to put him in a position to do it. We talk about managers and coaching staffs and front offices trying to do things to put the players in the best possible position to succeed. All you're doing here is putting the best player in the world in a position to get hurt. And it was unnecessary.